This is Caring for Kids on News Talk 760 WJR. Presented by the Children's Foundation. And here's your host, President and CEO of the Children's Foundation, Larry Burns.
Well, thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our June 2021 episode of Caring for Kids. On tonight's show, we have another great lineup. Joining us will be Robbie Buhl, former Indy race car driver and founder of the Teen Street Skills, and Nyse Holloman, CEO of Voices for Children Advocacy Center, and Shannon Wilson, Vice President of State Markets East for Priority Health, a Michigan-based health plan. It's all coming up next on Caring for Kids, here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
All right, welcome back, everyone. June edition of Caring for Kids. And I'm pleased to have with me in the studio my friend Robbie Buhl. Robbie has spent his career racing professionally with wins in IndyCar and Rolex 24 at Daytona, as well as instructing teens and adults at driving schools around the United States. Robbie is founder and lead instructor of Teen Street Skills, an advanced teen driving training program based right here in the Motor City. Robbie has begun expanding the reach of Teen Street Skills through an initiative called Eyes Drive, a national campaign that educates, advocates, and builds awareness on the dangers of distracted driving. So, Robbie, welcome back to Caring for Kids. It's been a little while since you've been on, and I thought it was time to talk about all the great things you're doing. And so I know you're very busy, and our listeners have followed you in your career, so give them an update on what's going on in the racing world to begin with.
Well, with the racing world, we just had the Indy 500 not too long ago, and our company, Buhl Sport, we didn't have an entry there, but we do partner with a couple corporate clients and have partnerships with AJ Foyt Racing. And AJ, just the four-time winner there, he's an incredible personality for all our guests. And he's, people have this vision of AJ Foyt as this tough guy, and he's out there whacking on a hammer to fix his car. And that is so far, he is the most giving, caring guy and supportive of all his team and everybody. So it's really been fun getting to know him. I actually drove for him at Indy one year, but just over the last 5 years with some of our client and partnership we've had with him, I've spent a lot more time with him. And so it's been fantastic. It was great to see the stands pretty close to full. Yeah. They said they were half full, but boy, they sure looked full when you looked down that huge front straightaway at Indy. So it was good being there. I don't do any racing myself, but I still obviously am involved at the racetrack. We have a little rally team that's going to start competing this year in September with Nitro. It's a brand new series called Nitro Rallycross with Travis Pastrana and all his kind of X Games type sports and initiatives. So we're going to be part of that. So we're excited with all the racing activities.
Awesome. So we're talking with Robbie Buhl, and we're talking now about your Teen Street Skills. Jill Nelson and I experienced that 2 summers ago with you. You kind of scared the heck out of us. But it was very worthwhile. And so tell our listeners a little bit about that and how things are going as it relates to teaching teen drivers to be better prepared for what they see on the road.
You're right. So it's called Teen Street Skills, and you guys nicely helped support us initially when we were getting going, and you came out, and it's a 3.5-hour advanced driver program. It's free for all kids from southeastern Michigan, but as we are introducing Teen Street Skills to folks, Larry, we want to get, it's not just for teens. We want to get older people out there.
Older people like me.
Older people like you, when you said we scared you to death. But what we do with the cars is, you put kids behind the wheel and you give them confident experience, and you put them in a position that you don't get in a car driver's ed. We make you hammer the brakes, emergency stop, lane change, skid car, and just car 101 awareness, and it will make any driver, again, this is for teens, and the reason it's for teens is that the number one killer of teens is car accidents. Right. So that's the group we're focused on by default, but it really should be for every driver. And again, just makes you more confident of what you can do with a car when you're presented on something on the road to avoid or hit the brakes really hard, or, obviously we have the winter conditions here of just how to control a skid. What do you do with that? So it's most of the kids that come through the program, they're there because mom and dad made them.
Right.
But by the time they've spent 3 hours with us, they're like, hey, that was pretty fun. Yeah. We had a good time with you guys. And the group of instructors that we have, yes, most all the instructors have a pretty good performance racing background. This is by no means a racing program, but these are the individuals that can teach what a car can do and get that across with, passion and interest. We love it. It's great to see the transformation of, a 15-year-old driver that just got his permit. That's the best time for them to come to us because they haven't developed any bad habits and they're on a steep learning curve. And to see their transformation of, again, we do a poll at the beginning of our class. We keep the classes pretty small. Right. Really no more than 30 kids. So there's a lot of good seat time and a lot of one-on-one. But we ask them prior, who wants to be here? Not but many people raise their hand, but after they're laughing, they're like, oh, this is great. So
tell their friends about it.
Tell their friends about it. Yeah. So it truly is the best thing that we can do for all drivers, but young drivers, of just making them more aware behind the wheel. Yeah.
So you mentioned the Children's Foundation helped support you.
You did. Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll continue to help you wherever we can. But that falls right into our focus area of safety. And you mentioned that number one cause of death in teenagers is car accidents. So there's no better investment that we can make than in helping youngsters be prepared to be better drivers. And all you need to do is drive on the Lodge or 696 or 75. Realize that the more skills you have, the safer you're going to be. So I commend you for the great work.
Thank you.
Now, in a national perspective, I know we've talked about a national program called Eyes Drive. So tell us about that. It's very exciting.
It is. And this has been a program we've been thinking about for a while. And Eyes Drive National Awareness Campaign, this is an initiative that came from our teen driving program, from our teen street skill driving program, because one of the things that we lead with when we are doing that program is your hands follow your eyes. So where your eyes are looking, your hands will follow. And your eyes are what controls everything. So a lot of parents that came through the Teen Street program were always asking us, what more can we do to help our young drivers, our son or daughter, be safer on the road, instead of being the meddling mom or dad that you say, oh, mom, I know that. Oh, right. Dad. How do we break that barrier? So we developed this program called Eyes Drive. And really think of Eyes Drive and the messaging of where we want to take this very similar to what Don't Drink and Drive was back in the 80s. Eyes Drive is the answer, and it is the solution, if you want to say it that way, to distracted driving. Right now, distracted driving is a big problem, and everybody thinks of distracted driving as just, oh, that's your cell phone. But distracted driving is more than that. Anytime your eyes aren't on the road, okay, right, you got the potential of being distracted, right, whether you're down turning and cranking up the music, you're daydreaming, you're talking to the people in the back seat, even from adjusting your radio and your, so those are all distractions. So we just need to remind people with Eyes Drive, it's just a digital campaign, social and digital campaign that we just launched this year, with support from Ford and Ford Driving Skills for Life and the state of Michigan and their safety group, and their safety planning, of getting that message out there. And if it's content with just quick, witty messages that make you, hopefully what we want to do. And again, yes, we're targeted for teens, but this is for everybody
Absolutely,
that's
for
behind
everybody.
the wheel. If we can just make somebody think twice before they take their eyes off the road and wait for an appropriate time to do it, we're doing our job. So
Absolutely.
it's an uphill battle. We're just in the initiative of launching Eyes Drive, and as we roll through this year, we're hopefully going to continue to get some more supporters and spread the word of it. It's a very simple message, and again, we want to keep it engaging and fun. It's not you and me, giving a message.
Right. It's not a lecture.
It's not a lecture.
Right.
It's just it's the things of, when you crank, you hear a really good song on the radio and you start jamming out and shaking your head. We're all guilty of it. Just say, oh, wait a minute, I got to keep my eyes on the road. So if we can just make people think just a little bit twice, we're doing our job. And
yeah, and I actually think technology is great. Love it, GPS and all that. But it also adds to distraction. You're looking at your phone to find out where you're going, and you're putting in a location, or you're working on Sirius radio and you're hitting a bunch of buttons, and so you really have to be careful not to get in those habits, because a split second you could be in trouble.
That's all it takes. It's just a split second when your eyes are off the road for one reason. It just can happen that fast. And you're right. Nowadays, again, people think of distracted driving, back to your cell phone, but it is more with that. And the way cars are evolving with all their technology and screens, there's a lot to look at. So we have to get comfortable with that. But having said that, there's a lot of the car manufacturers, too, are building in, all these safety systems with, think of all the, as we're going to go to autonomous vehicles, think of how many eyes are on a car that are keeping that car out of trouble in a autonomous car. So there's so many variables to that, and the car makers are trying to make things safe. But again, it still comes back to that premise of you as the driver of keeping your eyes on the road. Right. And you just have to always remember that. And as you say, it only takes a split second for something to happen in front of you.
Yeah. And driving over here from the east side this morning, I have to admit, I was on the phone and I missed my exit.
Yep.
Because I was concentrating on the conversation, and that, it was frustrating, but it also kind of scares you a little bit that even though I was hands-free and I was still distracted. So
yeah. And that's just what we want to do. Is just, again, we're not trying to tell people to change the way they do things. Just be conscious of it. So you do think about it and say, oh, when we have some type of fun anecdote with Eyes Drive, say, oh, I've done that. Right.
Yeah. And in this case, I should have said, call me later. Well, that's terrific. And let the Children's Foundation know, what we can do to help with Eyes Drive as well. We've been posting the very witty and cool social media for Eyes Drive, so we'll continue to do that and other ways that we can help.
And I encourage everyone, it's eyesdrive.org. Go on, look at the information, pass it along. You can go on the site and just some of the messaging we put out there, how we can be successful in measuring Eyes Drive is how many folks are posting and passing that along. Right. And we're just in our infancy right now. And again, thanks to your guys' support, it's just, we're a grassroots program. We're just going to keep pushing this forward. And in 5 years from right now, we want to look back at overall statistics and say, hey, we've made a difference. We've made a difference with distracted driving accidents. That's where we want to be.
And speaking of making a difference, many years ago, you were part of starting Racing for Kids. I remember it when I was at Children's Hospital with Bill Pinsky and yourself.
Yep, 1989.
1989.
Long time ago.
And so each year we have a wonderful opportunity to support Racing for Kids in Grosse Pointe. And this year, because the pandemic is hopefully becoming a memory, knock on wood, we're going to have that event again on the Hill in Grosse Pointe. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can. Racing for Kids is a program that we started, as we say, back in 1989 when I was a young racing driver. And the premise of it was to visit children's hospitals everywhere we raced and visit kids and make their day a little bit better. And boy, it's hard. When we started it, we didn't know where it was going to go, but we thought it'd be a good thing to do, a great way to give something back with the sport I loved. And Dr. Bill Pinsky and Pat Wright, they believed in it. And here we are 32 years later. And since we're all originally from the Detroit area, Grosse Pointe, we have this event called Racing for Kids to the Hill that will be September 1st, where they block off the streets there, and we just have a really fun party that raises money for all the local children's groups here around Detroit. You guys being one of it and a supporter.
Yep, Children's Hospital Michigan. I know Beaumont's Pediatric Unit. I think Henry Ford. Yeah, so it's awesome. So I commend you for that, along with all these other things. And so, Robbie Buhl, great to see you. Keep up the great work, and let's stay in touch.
We will do it. Thanks for having me.
Yep, we're there to help. So next, we're going to hear from Nyse Holloman about her work at Voices for Children when caring for kids continues here on the great voice of the Great Lakes. News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR, presented by the Children's Foundation.
Well, it was great to see Robbie Buhl again. And now we have Nyse Holloman. Nyse is an advocate for children. She's an attorney. She's worked to represent children and their families. And now as the CEO of Voices for Children Advocacy Center, she works to help children and their families who have been victims of child abuse, neglect, and human trafficking. Nyse is a member of the State Bar of Michigan, chair of the Children's Advocacy Centers of Michigan, chair of the Genesee Community Health Center, and a trustee of her Second Ebenezer Church. She also serves on statewide committees and national task force for anti-human trafficking and child abuse prevention. Nyse, great to see you in person.
It's great to see you too, Larry. I appreciate being able to be here today.
Yep. Well, we appreciate you being here. We saw each other video-wise a couple weeks ago or so, but it's great to see you actually in person. And so you have a very diverse background that I mentioned in your intro. So tell our listeners a little bit about your journey to where you are today.
Well, by trade, I am an attorney and found myself doing criminal defense work when the opportunity at Voices for Children presented itself. And it's kind of a great merger between the law, policy, and administration. I get to be an advocate for kids. I get to fight for them legally, as well as legislative changes that need to happen, as well as just the little ancillary things that they need. So, I mean, sometimes it's just going to the store and getting Dora the Explorer for a little kid, or doing a TikTok dance with a kid, or it's fighting in court or changing legislation about what needs to happen for children so that they are able to thrive and have the justice that's necessary for them.
Yeah, that's great work. So you do everything from the real serious stuff to the things that are just helping kids enjoy a day. So
yes,
that is awesome. Now, Voices for Children is such an impactful organization. I had an opportunity to visit not too long ago, but it was before the pandemic, so it was a while ago. And our listeners need to know what you actually do there because it's such important work, and it was real eye-opening for me.
So Voices for Children is the Child Advocacy Center for Genesee and Shiawassee counties. So what does that mean? It means that any child that's abused or neglected, a victim of human trafficking, comes to our center for what's called a forensic interview. And it's an evidence-based way of talking to kids about trauma, but it also is a collaboration of multiple teams so that children don't have to go to multiple places to tell what happened to them. It brings everybody to one place. So law enforcement is there, prosecution is there, as well as Child Protective Services. And they're able to listen to what the kid has gone through while also simultaneously getting whatever questions they need for their investigation. The child then is able to come and receive free medical services at Voices for Children. They get free counseling. We go to court with them. And the thing that they love the most, and I love the most, is our canine advocate, Daphne.
I was going to bring up
yes,
Daphne.
My little baby girl, at Voices for Children. She's a Black lab who was definitely made for working with kids. And she sits on the stand with the kids. She goes into the forensic interviews with the kids. And she even goes into therapy. There was a little boy that said, I'm not going in that room unless Daphne comes with me. And so we got Daphne, and she sure did go in there with him.
That is awesome. Now, the location is a house.
It's a house.
And it really makes the whole experience different than if it was an office. So tell us a little bit about the house.
So the reason that we're in a house is to make kids feel comfortable, especially when they're coming for the first time. So often it's the first time that the child has told everything that actually happened to them. So when they're coming in the door, their first question typically to the staff is, do you live here? Right. And it's because the staff are coming to the door with slippers on, Winnie the Pooh slippers or Mickey Mouse slippers, because we want to make the kids feel really comfortable.
There's Daphne running around.
There's Daphne running around. It is a house. There's a kitchen in there. And the kids go to what it would have been the living room of the house. And it still looks like a living room. It's just decked out with a lot of toys for kids and TV and a lot of YouTube.
Yeah, and we're talking with Nyse Holloman from Voices for Children. There's also, if my memory's right, hopefully it is, there's an interesting story about the wallpaper.
There is. So
tell us about that.
Cool thing. There's two cool features about this house. It's the wallpaper, and it's we call it the wallpaper room. It would have been the dining room of the house, but we are one of 3 houses in the United States that has this original wallpaper, and it's what the artist thought post-slavery would look like, and it was done in 1822. We have an original. The White House has an original, and John Rockefeller's apartment.
Well, there you go.
In New York has it, but we also have the fireplace mantle that 'Twas the Night Before Christmas was written in front of as well. So we deck the house at Christmas time with all kind of Christmas cheer. We have kids that come in and they all read 'Twas the Night Before Christmas right in front of that fireplace mantle.
I remember that. And there was a President Obama story, too, around
that.
Yes. Right?
So we have a picture of President Obama and Lady Obama in the room because we asked for a picture of them in the room in the White House that Lady Kennedy put this particular wallpaper up in. So that picture is featured in our wallpaper room, and the kids just absolutely love that room. The sun shines just brightly in there, just like it was meant for it to be in that room.
Yeah, I remember vividly.
Yes.
So since the pandemic, getting a bit more serious, what other issues or what are you seeing with kids? Is it changed since the pandemic started?
You know, the pandemic, we didn't get a chance to do the stay-at-home order. We were still in there. We were still working because abuse doesn't stop. And the reality is that not every home was safe. While it was called Stay Home, Stay Safe, that's not the reality for a number of kids. And now that we see kids are going back to school or they're being with family members as vaccinated people are able to congregate together, we're getting more and more cases. So in the last 2 months, we had 131 new kids compared to...
In the last 2 months?
In the last 2 months. And if you look at the last if you take April and May of 2019, we only had 86 new kids. So the number is definitely increasing. And as we look around the state at some of the larger child advocacy centers, most of the ones that the Children's Foundation funds, we all had a meeting collectively earlier this week, and we all are seeing that increase because kids are going back to school, and now we have the teachers who have their eyes on the kids again, or you have family members who are now able to see, grandparents that are able to see their kids, or aunts and uncles that are able to see their nieces and nephews, and they are reporting that something is going on with those particular kids.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the Children's Foundation and our partnership. That is a result of our visit.
Yes.
And so I'm very proud of that. And we're just starting, by the way. This is not something that we're going to say, well, we'll see you later. We're not going to. We're going to be with you. And so tell our listeners a little bit about that grant or the partnership.
So we are so incredibly grateful to be a recipient of the Children's Foundation grant. The inaugural grant that we received covered a art studio for us. And not only did it cover an art studio for us, but it was matching dollars for us to be able to receive money from another foundation, which was the first time we received money from that foundation in the last 10 years. And so that allowed us to be able to create and build an art studio for the kids. It's the most requested therapeutic room that we have. There are more kids that are going through that room on any given day than any other room in our entire facility.
Well, that's terrific.
So we had last month 101 kid therapy sessions in that art studio, and and one kid was so excited about the art studio that they wanted to leave a piece of their art to talk about how impactful the room is, and it's a beautiful heart and all kind of rainbows to show where they have come from, because before they felt like, life was all black for them.
Right.
And now they feel like there's color back in their life. And so we're definitely going to share that out with you so that you see it. But
yes.
That shows the impact of that true room. But also it shows that we are able to provide the services to these kids because of foundations like yours.
Yeah. And the music to my ears that our grant allowed you to get another grant, and that's what we're all about, sort of integrating nonprofits and foundations. And I like to say 1 + 1 might equal 4. And so that's great. And so if our listeners want to help, how could they find out more about what you need?
We have a wish list on our website. Always Gifts to the Children's Foundation helps the child advocacy centers throughout the state. Actually, there are a number of child advocacy centers that are recipients, but also just making sure that you're talking to the kids that are in your life. Beyond anything else, we are purposed to make sure that kids can have a great life. And so that means that each one of us as adults has to do our part by talking to kids and keeping kids safe.
Wonderful. Nyse Holloman, thank you for all you're doing. Great to see you, and I look forward to continuing our partnership in the future.
Yes, thank you so much,
Wonderful.
Larry.
Wonderful. Coming up next, we're going to hear from Shannon Wilson of Priority Health and the Total Health Care Foundation. When Caring for Kids continues, here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR. Presented by the Children's Foundation. Once again, here's Larry Burns.
I'd also like to welcome back Shannon Wilson. Shannon is the Vice President of State Markets East for Priority Health, a Michigan-based health plan. In her role, Shannon is responsible for managing and growing Priority Health's Medicaid program in Southeast Michigan. Shannon's responsibilities also include ensuring the quality of Priority Health's Medicaid program statewide and overseeing the Total Health Care Foundation and community relations in Southeast Michigan and development and execution of their strategy to address social determinants of health impacting the Priority Health membership. So, Shannon, welcome back to Caring for Kids. It's been a little while since we last chatted, and we talked about originally the Total Health Care Foundation, and I know you've made a lot of progress and awarded some great things to community organizations. So tell our listeners about the Total Health Care Foundation.
As you remember, the Total Health Care Foundation was founded when Total Health Care and Priority Health merged. And so as a part of that relationship, Priority Health committed over $20 million to the city of Detroit and Southeast Michigan. We're so honored to have given away nearly $2.5 million just since the last time we talked. And we're just thrilled to be investing in the city in this way and really think that this is just the beginning. We are trying to make investments in key areas that we know are going to make lasting changes in the health and well-being of the communities that we serve. Both Priority Health and Total Health Care Foundation remain committed to moving the needle on areas like food insecurity, housing, our COVID-19 response, and even infant mortality. I would say the biggest change, though, since the last time we met, is really that I've taken on the role as the executive director of the foundation, and I'm really just honored to carry on the mission that was started to really improve the health and well-being of Detroiters and those living in Southeast Michigan.
Well, that's great news.
Yeah,
that's great news. Your leadership's going to provide a great future for the foundation.
Thank you. You know, launching a foundation in the middle of a pandemic is rough,
Right,
to say the least.
Yep.
But we've been quite successful, so I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, so we're talking with Shannon Wilson from Priority Health and now leading the Total Healthcare Foundation. And so you mentioned that you've allocated about $2.5 million since we last chatted, which is fabulous. Are there any grants that stand out in your mind that you want our listeners to know about? Any favorites or things that really come to mind?
Well, I think this is such a timely question because just yesterday we had the opportunity to hang out over in the Brightmoor neighborhood and present a check for $145,000 to support the Brightmoor Connection Food Pantry. That's really an amazing organization led by Reverend Roz and her dedicated troop of volunteers. And they're working to provide food, but clothing, and I think most importantly, respect and love in the community. We were able to participate in a tour followed by a short ceremony. We had lots in attendance. It was just really a great activity overall. And so it's moments like that let us know that we're moving the needle in the right direction. I would say in addition to that, we're also working with fantastic organizations like Brilliant Detroit, Make Your Date. Make Your Date is actually a program that's hosted in collaboration with Wayne State University that focuses on improving birthing outcomes. And we know that from an infant mortality perspective, we've seen some improvement in the state of Michigan, but we still have a long ways to go. And so making those investments are important. But then we're also having some fun making investments in organizations like CAS Community Social Services, where we're building out tiny homes and making sure that residents of the city of Detroit have an opportunity to engage in home ownership. I think one of the others that stands out for me is our investment in Christ Child House, where we were able to purchase a vehicle for them so that they could transport children to after-school activities, get them more engaged in their community, and also to provide land for much-needed expansion. Larry, if I could, we are just having a great time investing
it sounds like it.
In the city of Detroit.
Well, you're doing great work.
and Southeast Michigan.
Yeah, and so Make Your Date, that's been a longtime partner of the Children's Foundation, so I know that one very well. And, you know, we started a relationship with the Children's Foundation and the Total Healthcare Foundation a while ago, and one of the goals that I had, not only to provide some guidance from our grants team, but also to share partners together, and that's actually happening. And I think that just means so much to me because that's what we're trying to do. And organizations like Brilliant Detroit that you mentioned is a longstanding partner of the Children's Foundation. I think you made a commitment to catch caring athletes for Children's and Henry Ford Hospital.
We did.
Yep. Decades since Sparky started that, that's been a partner of the hospital as well as the foundation now. And so any thoughts on how the relationship is going as it relates to what you're now leading and what you're doing and what the Children's Foundation is bringing to the table?
Oh, I think the relationship is going wonderfully. I think the Children's Foundation is a phenomenal organization, and we are beyond thankful for the partnerships that have been forged. Larry, I think this is naturally bound to happen as you also support some really phenomenal organizations whose missions are really big and will require multiple funding streams from multiple funders. And so, again, Priority Health through the Total Healthcare Foundation wants to continue to invest in community. And we understand that you all have laid out a wonderful foundation for us to build upon. And so we're happy to add to the investments that you're making in these phenomenal organizations and to really just improve the health and well-being of Detroiters and those in Southeast Michigan. I think this is, as you said, exactly what we hope would happen. We won't be the first to do this work, and unfortunately, likely we won't be the last. But what we can do is continue to build on that foundation and to make sure that our investments make sense. And so please, by all means, continue to send organizations our way because you haven't let us down yet.
Right. Well, the grants team for the Children's Foundation, they love working with you, and they look forward to working more with you, Shannon Wilson, as you get into your role now as executive director of the foundation. And once the pandemic is a memory, we'll actually be able to meet in person and actually have more synergy, I think, as we move forward. And
I look forward to that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And so regarding Priority Health and now the Total Healthcare Foundation, What do you want our listeners to know that we haven't talked about as it relates to either Priority or Total Healthcare Foundation or Total Healthcare, just so that we make sure we give you the opportunity to say some more things about your organization?
I think as a health plan and as a foundation, we're really striving to be responsible to the needs of the communities that we serve. We want to understand the needs and desires of the community, but we also want to offer support and assistance where it's possible. We understand, I think, that achieving equitable outcomes is going to remain a challenge in Michigan, but we want to be intentional about working to invest in projects and programs that are going to bring impactful change to our blocks, to our neighborhoods, and to our communities that need them the most. With this funding, we are really, really working to focus on high-need areas to provide care management that's going to address the social determinants of health. We're looking to invest in educating expectant mothers on the importance of prenatal and preventive care and promotion of wellness for transferred and vulnerable populations. I think overall, what we really want to do is make sure that people understand healthcare and health and all those various aspects that are going to lead into an individual becoming as healthy as possible. And so if that means that we need to invest in housing or education, we want to create that pathway to health and wellness. And we are just really, really honored to do this work within community and on behalf of the members and the residents that we serve.
Well said. And what you just said is really what the Children's Foundation is concentrating on, the social determinants of health, the things in our everyday life, housing, job, transportation, that impacts our well-being and our health of our children as well as ourselves. And to have an organization that is in healthcare to take the lead on that is just so commendable. So I think Priority Health is leading the way in this, certainly in Michigan. And so the foundation, yeah, I really believe that. And the foundation is taking the concept of social determinants and then putting financial support into these, as you mentioned, community-based organizations, getting into a community like Brightmoor, getting into a community like Brilliant Detroit does, and helping people today to live a healthier life. And so that is just wonderful. So, and I also believe you have a new CEO of Priority Health. Is that correct?
We do. Praveen Thadani. He's fabulous. We'll have to get him on your show. I think you will absolutely love Praveen.
Yeah, well, we'll get that done. And so, is there anything else you want to share with us before we let you go? And I appreciate you taking the time to reconnect with us.
No, I think we've covered it. I mean, Priority Health is just really honored to do this work, and we are excited about showing up in Southeast Michigan as we embark upon a new journey with our Total Healthcare family.
Wonderful, and look forward to seeing you in person, working together with the foundation and the Children's Foundation, and continuing to do some great things. So Shannon Wilson, thanks for all you're doing at Priority Health and the Total Healthcare Foundation.
Thank you. Have a fantastic day.
All right, you too. Thanks again. Well, it was another great lineup tonight, the June edition of Caring for Kids, and the summer's very busy time for the Children's Foundation. We are wrapping up our Round 2 2021 grant cycle. I'm delighted to share that we have several new partnerships across the state and also collaborating on some great programs and projects that will make a lasting impression on families and children and young adults. That's what it's all about at the Children's Foundation. Next week, our foundation will be partnering with the Rocket Mortgage Classic again and the John Shippen on some exciting projects. There are several ways we are leveraging the game of golf to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. So don't miss that. Thanks for joining us tonight and every month on Caring for Kids. And we are very grateful for your continued support.
Caring for Kids with Larry Burns on WJR has been presented by the Children's Foundation.